you ready.
Hi, I'm Maribeth Harvey. Our mother, Ruth Gump Schaefer, lived at the Stone Home, and we were there frequently as we grew up and afterwards too. And our grandparents, Rudolph and Christine Gump, would tell us many stories, and one of my favorite was always my grandma told me how her grandmother, Margaret Longfritz Schwab, had come from Germany as a young girl in her teens, and all she knew was that her brother lived in Cincinnati. So she came over and worked as a maid in Baltimore till she had enough to raise the fare to get to Pittsburgh, and then she worked as a maid in Pittsburgh until she had enough to get to Cincinnati. And she got off of the boat, and I think Grandma said she was walking up Plum Street, Margaret Schwab was, or Longfritz at that time, and she went past a pub or bar, and she heard some men speaking in German, so she worked a little bit at getting up her nerve, and she went and she asked if any of them knew her brother, and she was able to find him that way. And we never heard much about her brother, so I think he died not too long after that. But one of his friends was Nicholas Schwab, and the story goes that she met Nicholas Schwab on Thursday and married him on Sunday, and they went on to have 10 children, which we talked about before. Another story that our mother would tell us was in the 1930s when the Great Flood was in Cincinnati, and she said they didn't go to school for a month, and they didn't see her father, my grandpa Rudy Gump, for a month. He was a fireman, and he had just come back from working really hard at a big fire and had just gone to bed, and it came out over the radio that all the firemen should report to their posts. And my grandma and my aunt said that they hated to wake him up. Our aunt was Elizabeth Schobert, and she said, well, my grandma said, I guess I gotta go wake him up. And they said he didn't say anything. He just was so tired, but he sat up on the bed and rubbed his eyes and walked out of the house, and they didn't hear from him and know anything about where he was. There weren't any telephones. And he was gone because of that great flood for a month. And during that time, the water was not usable. And so our two uncles, Richard and Ray, would have to walk way up to where there was a spring, and they might have been talking about that spring, that there's a spring house now on, what road is that? Delhi Road, or in Delhi. I guess it is Delhi Road. And they had to walk really far anyway to get any water and then bring it back so that they had water. So the flood was a major thing in our mom's life, and our grandparents would talk about that too. But they had a strong faith in God, and when troubles came, they just depended on Him, and that is the greatest legacy. It's wonderful to have the Stone Home, but the faith of our grandparents and our parents, it's been handed down to us, is the greatest legacy we have.